right brain, left brain president, President Barack Obama's uncommon leadership ability and how we can each develop it. I'd like for this extraordinary best-selling author to give us her name and then give me a brief synopsis of what this important work is all about. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm Mary Lou Descostaird. Thanks so much for having me. Let's see, what is this book all about? The book really wants to call attention to this phenomenal New Age leader, President Barack Obama. It looks at both how he came to prominence so quickly and really in particular how President Obama serves us so very well based on the complexities of what we're all facing today. He is a man who probably leverages his brain better than, well, just about anybody I can think of.
Well, that's a pretty bold statement because a lot of times when a person talks about greatness, they talk about people. Frankly, Mary, the color of this individual is not usually, put in this category because most people don't consider that, a person, be it whoever background, especially a person of color, can have the capabilities of being a genius. So a lot of people look at you like you're crazy for even including a person of color in this kind of discussion.
Well, I feel sorry for anybody who comes from that perspective, first of all, but I think one of the things that was really fascinating to me, I lived in Chicago a while ago when Barack Obama was just kind of coming on the scene, and he was the kind of a person who you would read something about him or you'd hear a clip of something that he said, and you just would kind of turn your head. It was so refreshing to hear somebody who was so with it and in tuned and also grounded and just brilliant in his thinking. But kind of getting back to what you mentioned earlier about him not being a typical person, if you will, that we would equate with such greatness, he's got an absolutely unusual and phenomenal background that was like an Olympic workout of his brain as he was growing up. And I really don't think that people get that or understand just how special he is because of that.
Well, let's go through that for a moment. Depending upon your household, depending upon your culture, your society, and your history, one person can say, well, by going through this situation, by not having the father, by this, woe is me. What was it about him that didn't allow him to take potential things that, as you mentioned, terrible situations, huge problems, but he was able to take each one and mount his brain upon each one of those different stepping stones?
Sure. I think there are, let me say, maybe four key things. The first thing it starts with is the genetics. I mean, clearly he comes from great stock. I mean, he has two absolutely brilliant parents, okay? So he's got that genetic foundation for brain capacity. But then you get a little deeper and you look at his mom. His mom was a PhD anthropologist, okay? She was completely and totally committed to her son. She raised him with a very open mind, open to culture, open to people. She had probably we kind of think of everything as global now because of the internet and whatnot, but as he was growing up, that really wasn't the case. And here was a woman who came from a very humble Midwest, upbringing, if you will, and we'll get to her parents in just a minute because they were really quite phenomenal as well. But I think she raised him in a very global way. The other thing that she did that was just so incredible was, in spite of the fact that his dad, if you will, behaved badly relative to his upbringing, she tried to preserve the integrity of the man and certainly may have acknowledged the abandonment and the behavior as not a good thing, but she did everything she could to help a young boy see his father in a favorable light, not, negating what had happened, but to try to see who the man was and that people aren't always perfect and they don't always do the right thing, but there was some good stuff there too. So I think he inherited the intellect, and both of his parents were people who were restless in a good way, not wanting to think of the world as the way it was and that, well, we can't do anything about it, but both people who constantly challenged the world as it was and wanted it to be better. They were both champions, really, in their own right. And so he was brought up knowing all that. Then you get to his mom's parents. And as I said, they were very humble people who stuck by their grandson and always provided him with this kind of constant stability in the face of the dramatic changes that his life was going through. I mean, he attended I don't know if it was a conservative, but a fairly traditional private school for part of his education. And yet, they provided this very humble, grounded, honest, integrity background. So you put all of that together, and let's not forget the fact that as a young boy he lived in Indonesia. He had a very interesting and committed stepfather. So, this is not the typical experience that we all have. Most of us grow up in relatively the same part of the world that we were born in. I mean, some of us are lucky enough to travel to different places and maybe live in different places. But, it was like this young boy was getting a college education the whole time he was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's a lot.
I'm back there. The price of this conversation, when you hit me with that Olympic thing, that concept there, I'm sitting there with my chair back, and I'm like, whoa, that was just so powerful, because there's the metaphors. When you look at a Vince Lombardi, who coached the Green Bay Packers up your way, and I'm sorry to mention the Green Bay Packers in today's society, but his philosophy was a thought from St. Paul, which is about running the race. And you think about the race, and I'm thinking about, the training that is required to do Olympics. And then, see, I have this philosophy that you need a coach during regular season, but you need a trainer in playoffs, because I think one thing that doesn't happen with a lot of teams is they need someone to teach them how to peak at the Super Bowl, at the World Series, and a lot of coaches don't have that kind of ability. And so I'm just sitting there thinking about all the kinds of things that one mother's telling their child. Your daddy was no good, your grandpa was no good, society, da-da-da-da. And then you have this mother,
that's right,
who said to her child, you can be what you want to be.
That's right.
And so...
And people do things that aren't always right, but what are you going to do about that?
And yes, we
what
can.
What are you going to learn about that? And then look at the woman he chose to marry.
Let's talk about that. Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable, right? I mean, she comes from this very grounded family. Our wonderful, lovely First Lady comes from this amazing, grounded family, brilliant woman, professional woman, highly committed mother, highly committed wife, highly patriotic, and you can get people who come through divorce and abandonment and whatnot, and they don't get it right the first time in marriage, and so I think the fact that he picked Michelle or fell in love with Michelle, they ended up together, that also speaks to how well he was able to process all the experiences that he had and parlay it into something really fabulous. Everything I see in this man speaks to diversity and speaks to kind of leveraging both sides of your brain. He is a man of, he's very gentle, he's very compassionate, but he also sets limits. And I have to laugh sometimes when the only criticism or one of the criticisms his opponents come up with is that he's too smart. Well, in this day and age, wouldn't you want the president of our country to be brilliant so that he can handle complex challenges, and then, they'll criticize him because he's not confrontational enough. Well, he's stepping back and he's working things in a manner that he's expecting Congress right now to do the right thing and to learn how to work together. During the Gulf oil crisis, he didn't race in on, some, pardon the expression, white horse and say, I'm going to fix everything. He brought all the factions together and said, what are we going to do to fix this? And he doesn't always take the credit. He expects everybody to do what they're supposed to do, and he works as a master facilitator. And I think that's what I really respect so much about him. And a lot of this just gets lost. I don't think that people see it and appreciate it.
Well, Mary, we only got a couple more minutes here, and I want you to put on your track shoes and just give us quick answers, okay?
Good. Sorry.
Number one is, what is a quick answer? What do you mean right brain, left brain? Give me a quick answer.
Right brain, strategic, left brain, tactical, take the vision and parlay it into a plan.
Go down the list of the 10 guiding behaviors for successful leadership.
Okay. Right brain, you have strategic, innovative, which is creative, transformational, and engaging. The engaging part, transformational, moving to change, engaging part, bringing the people together. Left brain, you have methodical, where you can look at the details. You have expressive, which Obama absolutely is, the ability to communicate. Then you have the assertive piece, and he is very good at giving bottom lines. I've left out one. Oh, the grounded piece, certainly his integrity. And then you have those plus factors, the resilient and savvy. He's in great health, and he takes care of himself spiritually and emotionally, and he also is he's great in terms of the savvy.
Before you go, I really do admire this man, whether he was a president or not. I think
absolutely. Nobel Peace Prize winner too.
Yeah, and I think when you have to. Well, I think everybody's a genius, which is a whole other subject there. But I think when you public geniuses that people like to put, I think you have to put him on anybody's list of Mount Rushmores of bright and brilliance. But one of the concerns I have, and this is I'm on his side, but this is one thing that I am concerned about him as a person, not for him as a president. I just don't feel politics takes advantage of his brilliance. I think it hurts his brilliance because of the fact that he's such far above what politics is about. I think the structure of politics doesn't lend itself for its greatness. When I look at people like President Carter or President Clinton, even Al Gore, I feel that when he comes out of office and is able to run his own nonprofit organization, he can be able to allow his brain to truly manifest itself, because the vitriol of politics and the structure of politics doesn't allow for him to continue to expand his great mind. What do you think of that concept?
Yeah, I'm afraid I agree with you in one part, that politics isn't ready for him because they're too busy trying to win their own battles. But I think the seeds that he's going to plant in the political arena, both nationally and globally, in the 8 years, and hear me, 8 years that he will be around, will be gifts that we will have forever. And then he will do additional great things. But if we need him anywhere, we need him in the political arena to help fix that. And it's going to take every minute of the 8 years that hopefully we will have him in order to make a dent in that, and hopefully to breed future presidents who will carry on his mission. So I look at him as a seed, a wonderful Jack and the Beanstalk seed.
Okay. So, only reason why I disagree with you, I understand where you're coming from, but the structure of politics, I'm talking about the structure of politics, the structure, the inherent structure. It's like, if I play baseball, I have to know about a home run. If I play football, I have to understand about a touchdown. I just believe the structure of politics does not allow, because, like, for example, you said something. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. Why was he hated? We have a man makes $50 million a year telling people every day to hate this man. And that kind of vitriol in our system doesn't allow himself. He has so much grace. He has so much panache. He has so much that I don't believe the system of politics itself, which needs to be totally destroyed, can hamper and hinder us from really understanding this man's brilliance. And I don't think the world is going to ever really understand this man after the 8 years, 12 years, or whatever, until he is free to allow his brain to continue to be showcased. You have the last and final say-so.
Yeah, I hope that that's not the case. I think the longer we have him, the more we'll appreciate him. And I'm absolutely convinced that at the end of these 8 years, he's going to be one of our most loved presidents.
Tell me how to get a copy of this and your other books and materials.
Certainly through my publisher's website, abcclio.com, but, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the, big usual ones.